Picture the color red in your mind. Now apply that color to 4 different things: red hair, red wine, a red fire engine, and a red face. If we pull out a color picker, we hit a physical contradiction almost immediately. Red hair is actually a rusty orange, red wine is dark purple, and a red face is mostly just pink. Yet somehow our brains don't short-circuit. We use a single 3-letter word to accurately communicate these vastly different physical realities every single day. This everyday experience suggests that words aren't rigid, fixed boxes of meaning. If they were, the word red would be useless in 3 of those 4 contexts. For a long time, linguists leaned on what is known as the categorical view of language. This is the assumption that words are made up of discrete atomic features, perfectly bounded by strict, inflexible dictionary definitions. Philosophers actively argued against this rigid view. Ludwig Wittgenstein suggested that words are actually linked by a fuzzy family resemblance rather than strict rules. To test this, 3 cognitive psychologists, Henry Hulse, Andrew Ortney, and Richard Anderson, published this 1976 study. They wanted to see if they could mathematically map this fuzzy linguistic reality. Their working hypothesis was that we do not passively recall definitions from memory. Instead, we actively compute a word's meaning on the fly, based on the context it is placed in. This table shows the 19 different sentences they used to stress test the word red. They brought in 19 students and asked them to evaluate the color across a variety of contexts, from blood and bricks to apples and anger. The mechanics of the test forced the students to rank the redness of these different contexts against each other. The researchers were attempting to mathematically order a highly subjective feeling. For every pair of sentences, the students had 3 choices. The object in the first sentence was definitively redder, definitively less red, or it could be equally as red as the object in the second sentence. The resulting data proved that a word is never stored in human memory as a single data point or a fixed GPS coordinate. Instead, context transforms a static word into a dynamic, sliding scale of possibilities. This chart at the bottom right shows exactly what that sliding scale looks like. The researchers map the data into what they call a real interval, a mathematical representation of a word featuring a specific upper limit and a lower limit of redness. Notice how a broad context like sunburn creates a wide, forgiving interval. The brain accepts a massive range of shades as a valid sunburn. Now look down at the data for a fire engine. This context creates a highly intense, tight, and incredibly narrow interval. This table breaks down the consistency statistics. Looking at the data, the 19 subjects almost entirely disagreed with each other on where the limits of these bounds actually sat. This disagreement happens because subjects act as subjective storytellers. They generate their bounds based on personal life experiences. One person might be imagining the palest red fire engine they've ever seen, while another pictures a brand new one. Human memory operates through inductive inference based on personal history, rather than by deducing facts from a strict set of propositions. This leaves us with an ultimate problem. If the definitions in our heads are this subjective and variable, how do we successfully communicate at all? The true obstacle is physical reality itself. The universe is an endless, uncountable continuum of information and sensory input. If our words were as precise as math, we would need billions of unique words just to accurately describe the objects in a single room. This is what linguists call semantic flexibility. Because one word, like red, can point to an entire range of different physical experiences, it acts as a massive data compressor, mapping a tiny set of sounds over an infinite cognitive space. This brings us right down to everyday behavior, especially those internet arguments over the true, objective definition of a word. Those debates miss the point entirely, because the participants are never arguing over a fixed point in objective reality. The true nature of human communication is much more collaborative. It is simply 2 people, armed with a tiny set of sounds, attempting to overlap their personal subjective intervals just enough to reach an understanding. The imprecision of language is exactly what makes human connection possible, allowing us to bridge the gap between 2 completely different sets of life experiences.